What's going on, everybody? It's ETAPRIME back here again. Today I am super excited because I've got my hands on the all-new ONEXPLAYER 2 Pro, and what makes this one Pro is it's actually powered by the new Ryzen 7 8840U. So we've got that new Ryzen 8000 series chip, and if you're familiar with the ONEXPLAYER 2, you know that this is a pretty beefy handheld. We've got the detachable controllers, and they've gone through a few different revisions. I believe the ONEXPLAYER 2 actually started out with the Ryzen 7 6800U, then moved over to the 7840U, and now we're on the Ryzen 7 8840U. Up here, got a couple extra little boxes for our 65-watt PD fast charger and the detachable controllers. But as you can see, we've got a pretty big screen here, and I've always liked the overall look of the ONEXPLAYER 2. It's definitely one of the larger handhelds on the market. It's got some heft to it, but we can take those controllers off and use it in kind of desktop mode. It's got a built-in kickstand. It does support USB 4, so connecting an eGPU is pretty simple here. And when it comes to this 8.4-inch display, we've got a resolution of 2560 by 1600. Up top, full-size USB port, which is something I love to see. We've also got USB 4, and also on the bottom, there's another USB 4 port, volume rocker, turbo button, and our power button / fingerprint sensor. There's no doubt this is a hefty boy. With the controllers attached, it's 848 grams. With them detached, it's 709 grams. And it's really easy to get these controllers off, and it looks like they're a bit more sturdier than the older models of the ONEXPLAYER 2. I guess they might have revamped the rail system that they have there. But around back, as you can see, we've got that built-in kickstand for setting this thing up on the desk. This connects to the device using these pogo pins and pads. Plus, they do send along some covers, so if you don't want those pads exposed on the handheld portion itself, you can go ahead and slide these in. Personally, when I've got this in desktop mode, I kind of like using these. I think it does kind of clean it up a bit. When it comes to I/O, up top here, we've got a micro SD card slot, full-size USB 3.2 port, USB 4 running at a 40 gig protocol, a 3.5mm audio jack for plugging in your headphones, a turbo button, volume rocker, and our power button. And just moving around to the bottom here, this will support one of their detachable keyboards. We've got those pogo pads here, and we've got another USB Type-C port. So when it comes to I/O for a handheld, this thing's got quite a lot when you compare it to others on the market right now. But I'd say the biggest change here for the new ONEXPLAYER 2 Pro is that APU, because we've got the AMD Ryzen 7 8840U. 8 cores, 16 threads, all based on Zen 4. Base clock of 3.3 with a boost up to 5.1. It still utilizes the built-in Radeon 780M iGPU, so it's based on RDNA 3. We've got 12 compute units, and it will clock up to 2700 MHz. All of the CPU manufacturers now are really into AI, so this is no different. With the Ryzen 8000 series, they've upgraded the Ryzen AI NPU. This will now do up to 16 TOPS of AI performance just from the NPU. We've got 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5 running at 7500 MHz out of the box. I didn't have to go into the BIOS and change anything for this to run at 7500, so we're right there. Got some really fast RAM. An 8.4-inch 60 Hz IPS display, and I really do wish this was 120 with VRR. Unfortunately, it's not a variable refresh rate display, but it does have a resolution of 2560 by 1600, 358 pixels per inch, and up to 350 nits of brightness. This uses a 2280 PCIe 4.0 M.2 SSD, so getting in there and changing that out to a larger drive's really simple and a lot cheaper than the smaller ones. Dual stereo speakers certified by Harman, and they do get pretty loud in this unit. We've also got a 65.5 watt-hour battery, and this is running Windows 11. This can definitely be a comfortable handheld if you've got larger hands. You can reach all of the buttons, no problem at all. They are using conductive pads under the D-pad and all of the other face buttons. Analog sticks feel really smooth here. And it does look like they may have redesigned the D-pad here. So that was one of my big gripes about the older version. It's got some nice roll to it. It's still a bit slippery, the surface that it's made out of. A little divot in the middle. It feels a bit better. I can tell we've got that conductive pad here. I will have to get into some testing to see how it really works. Couple extra face buttons here that can be remapped from software if you want to. You can also bring up your on-screen keyboard at any time. And up top, I've talked about the turbo button a couple times. Basically, with the turbo button, what this is going to allow us to do is easily get into the ONEXPLAYER control center. Tapping it once will bring it up. And I'm going to move over to my game capture to give you a better look at the software, because there's quite a bit to go over with the newer updates. From here, we've got full control over the handheld, like our TDP right up here at the top. So I'm in 15 watt mode, but we can move it all the way down to 4 watts and go all the way up to 30. I'm sitting at about 15 right now. Fan mode, automatic, or we can actually set our own curves. So from here, we can edit this. It's really up to you. I'm going to reset that. So we've got fan curve adjustment, vibration settings, change our resolution. There is a performance overlay which utilizes Rivatuner and hardware info, kind of like Afterburner. Personally, I'm just using Afterburner here. We've also got our turbo. Now this can definitely save on battery. The Ryzen 7 8840U has a base clock of 3.3 gigahertz. With this off, it's only going to boost up to that 3.3, or you can go ahead and leave it on. Of course, leaving it on will draw more power when that CPU needs to boost up higher. There's a lot of games out there where we don't need that turbo boost enabled, but a lot of the newer AAA stuff does benefit from it from what I've tested so far. The built-in gyro can be fully adjusted. We can enable it from the very top, gyro auto startup, and we can simulate different modes. So mouse mode, Xbox gamepad, or DS4 gamepad, it really comes down to the end user. I personally like having it set up in mouse mode. We can also change the sensitivity from here. We can reverse the horizontal and reverse the vertical. It does work out pretty well, and they've done a great job with their built-in gyro. But to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of gyro controls. If you are, it's here. You can definitely utilize it. Brightness control, volume control, and way down at the bottom, we've got some extra settings that we can use, like auto boot. If you don't want to use this, you really don't have to. You could use a third-party app like x86 Tuning Utility. But the other thing we have here with the control center is actually a game launcher. Long pressing that turbo button up top is going to bring us into the One X game launcher. This automatically scans our directories, and it'll just go through all of the defaults. You can also manually add different directories if you want to, but I kind of like the way we get that background up. It'll automatically download some box art, that background image, some metadata for the game, and we can actually set up custom profiles here. So once we launch a game, you can set it up to, let's say, run Palworld at 20 watts. You can run Spiderman at 15, or so on and so on. Comes in really handy. With their recent updates, they've added controller mapping for most of their devices that use this One X control center. And finally, from others, we've got the Update Center. This will update the controller driver, BIOS, firmware of the device if there's updates available. As you can see, I've already gone through, updated everything here with the new 8840U version, and resource download. This just gives us a list and links to useful tools and different game launchers. If you wanted to install any of this, you don't really have to go and search for it yourself. You can get it directly from within the control center itself. Now it's time to take a look at some performance. First up, we've got some benchmarks, and all of these benchmarks were run at 28 watts. When it comes to Geekbench 6, looking at a single core of 2,497, multi 11,530. I mean, this is outstanding, just even given that we're up to 28 watts here. And this really isn't even stressing out the cooling system on this unit. Taking a look at some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark, Night Raid coming in with an outstanding 30,398. Firestrike, 8,109. And finally, we've got Time Spy coming in with a 3,429. Really amazing scores here, and I've noticed that these new 8000 series chips, at least with these synthetics, do outperform the 7940U, and to tell you the truth, I'm not exactly sure why. Clock for clock and watt for watt, we are getting better scores here. Now it's time to test out this D-pad, and it does feel a bit slippery. I mean, the roll's okay, kind of wish it was raised up just a bit more. I have missed a few uppercuts here and there, like that one right there. But as soon as I get used to it, I can actually pull these moves off pretty easily. I think really what it comes down to is once you press in on this thing, it's pretty close to the body or the shell of that controller there. So it will take a little bit of getting used to it. It's definitely not the best D-pad on a handheld, but it does get you by. In my opinion, it's much better than their older one that they had on the original ONEXPLAYER 2. Moving over to Fallout 4, we're at 1200p medium, and I'm at an 18 watt TDP. With all of these chips from Ryzen 7000 up to 8000, this is kind of my go-to wattage. And if you wanted to go down to 15, I would recommend going down to 800p or even 1200p low. That would probably take care of it at 15 watts. But that 18 right there, we still get a few dips here and there when there's large explosions on screen. Either way, I've actually had really good luck with these RDNA 3 iGPUs in Fallout 4. Moving over to Spiderman Miles Morales, 800p low, and really turning VSync on with this game does help out quite a bit. It'll kind of just sit us right there at 60, got a couple dips underneath, but trying to overrun that iGPU by unlocking this really does hurt the performance. And again, if you check out Afterburner, we're at an 18 watt TDP. Now we could take this up to 30 watts if we wanted to, but I wanted to keep that battery life manageable. Here's Palworld, 800p low, and this one's never been really great on these iGPUs. We do need some FSR. Unfortunately, it's not built into the game yet. I do have Turbo Boost on right now, and our clocks are over 4 gigahertz. So what I'm going to do is just turn it off. And if you take a look now, our GPU clock jumped up because it can take that extra power it was sending over to those cores to get those clocks up there and use it on the GPU side of things. And of course, we had to test out some Cyberpunk 2077. 800p low, we're at a 15 watt TDP. I've got the total battery draw on screen right now, and I'm actually really impressed by the low power draw on this unit given the huge handheld itself. Now I've got the screen at 100% brightness, and by the end of this video, we're going to get a good idea of what kind of battery life we can get out of this thing. But I also wanted to show you what this would do at 28 watts. So we're at 1200p low with Cyberpunk 2077, and yeah, these chips handle this game really well. So if you wanted to go up in that resolution, of course, taking that TDP up is really going to help. But if you wanted to take it on down to 800p, 15 watts, lock it at 60 and have a good time with this one. There's something else I wanted to take a look at here with a game like Horizon Forbidden West, and that's fluid motion frames. So just to see this a bit better, I'm going to connect it to my game capture. And I completely understand that AMD's fluid motion frames isn't for everybody, but it can really help out. I mean, you can double your frame rate. So I'm at a 28 watt TDP. We're at 800p low settings with this game. It's just a newer game. It's harder to run on these iGPUs. Fluid motion frames is completely off. We're seeing an average of around 41 FPS, which isn't horrible for this game. But if we open up the adrenaline settings, we can actually enable AMD fluid motion frames pretty easily. You will have to be in full screen, and VSync does have to be turned off. So now, instead of getting an average of around 41 with fluid motion off, with it enabled, we're seeing an average of around 81. And what this is doing is inserting AI frames in between so we can actually see that we're getting a higher frame rate. It does look a bit smoother, and I actually do enjoy this, but you do need that TDP up there if you really want to get good performance out of it. And the final game I wanted to show off was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, just using the built-in benchmark. We're at 1200p, but I do have FSR set to balanced. We're at a balanced preset, and at the end of this, we had an average of 105 FPS and a low of 66. So far, I'm seeing some pretty good performance out of the new ONEXPLAYER 2 Pro with that Ryzen 7 8840U. But one last thing that I wanted to check on was just overall battery life. Now we've got a huge handheld, but we've got a pretty decent battery. It's a 65.5 watt hour battery, and at 10 watts with Cyberpunk 2077 running uncapped, on average, total draw from the battery is 16.6 watts. And obviously it'll go up from there, so at a 15 watt TDP, we're pulling around 23.8 watts. And this will give us a really good idea of what kind of battery life we can see out of this device, given we know exactly how much is being drawn from that battery, and we also know the battery size. So we're working with a 65.5 watt hour battery. Through my testing, I had the screen brightness at 50%, volume also at 50%, and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth were on. I went through and I tested 10 watts, 15, 20, and 28. At a 10 watt TDP, it's drawn around 16.6 watts from the battery, giving us around 3 hours and 55 minutes. 15 watt was really impressive, only drawing 23.8 watts from the battery, so around 2 hours and 45 minutes. 20 watt TDP, 29.8, 2 hours, 10 minutes, and not completely maxed out, but at a 28 watt TDP, 39.8 watts total draw from the battery, so around an hour and a half of runtime at a 28 watt TDP, which isn't bad at all, and it really comes down to having that really big battery, 65.5 watt hour. Now it would be nice to be getting more out of something like this, but that's kind of the state of everything. And when you compare it to other handhelds, It's really only beat out by the Steam Deck OLED. Overall, we've got the same look and feel as the original One X Player 2, but we've got a lot more power here. They have revamped a few things, like the controller attachment rails do feel a lot more sturdier. They're not wiggling around or anything like that. The D-pad has been upgraded, but I wish they would have used just a little bit of texture, at least even on the edges, so you could kind of catch it. It is a bit slippery. Loving the battery life and performance here, and again, it comes down to having that much larger battery than most everything else on the market. 65.5 watt hours. They've done a lot of power optimizations. Before, with the older units, at a 15 watt TDP, it was drawn a lot more than it is now, so we're seeing some great battery life out of this new version also. Now, the 8840U is a bit of an upgrade over the 7840U, but it's not a tremendous jump. If AMD would have added a few more compute units on that iGPU, it'd definitely be worth an upgrade over the 7840U. But here's the deal. I mean, if you've already got the 7840U model of this, I wouldn't upgrade to the 8840U model. If you're into the One X Player 2 and you've been thinking about picking one up, I would go with the newer model as opposed to the 7840U. But personally, I don't think it's a big enough upgrade to stop using your 7840U One X Player 2. I need to spend a few more days with this, but I will have a full review coming up soon on the channel, so definitely keep an eye out. And if there's anything else you want to see running on this in that review, be it games or applications, let me know in the comments below. And if you're interested in learning a little more about the new 2024 One X Player 2 Pro, I'll leave some links to the official One X Player website. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. It'd be really cool if you could hit that like button and think about subscribing so you know when I post the next one. And like always, thanks for watching.